So welcome to the second webinar of the series Enabling the Adaptive and Agile Organization with AEquacy. I'm really excited about the topic today. We will explore employee engagement, and in particular, why employee engagement seems so difficult to attain, and what are the different characteristics of AEquacy that contribute to creating an environment where people can thrive and be engaged. So let's start with, let's align on the meaning of engagement and what generates or hinder it. So Gallup, probably you all know this international organization who have been monitoring and measuring for, I think, 50 years engagement in organization. Gallup defines engaged employees, those who are involved in, enthusiastic about, and also committed to their work and workplace. So based on these 50 years of employee engagement research, Gallup reports that engaged employees produce better results, better business outcomes than other employees. And this seems to be true across industry, company size, and nationality, in good economic times and in bad economic times. The funny thing is that only 15% of employees worldwide fall in the engaged category. And these results have not changed for years, despite the focus and the investment that many organizations have placed on engagement initiatives. You know, this number has not changed for years. And this engagement cost the United States, only the United States, between 450 and 550 billion dollars per year. So it is an issue about lack of productivity. So I would like to invite you to explore and discuss what are the elements that make you engaged or disengaged at work. So in a few moments, I will send you in breakout rooms. You will find another 3 colleagues. And my invitation is to go back to a moment in your professional life in the past. It can be a recent past or a past, when you felt very highly engaged, and think about what made you feel that way, and how did you behave with that feeling. And also remember a time when you didn't feel engaged, so you felt very disengaged. And in that case, what happened to make you feel that way, and how did you behave with that feeling? So I would invite you to share 2 or 3, 2.5 minutes each, because the total time of the sharing will be 10 minutes. So please manage the time in a way that everybody can have the opportunity to contribute. So if you don't have any question, I will send you in this room. Hi, and welcome back. May I hear some of the reflection that were made in the breakout rooms? What made you feel engaged or disengaged, and what was your behavior?
I can start summarizing the output of my group.
Yeah.
Well, I would say many things in common. Things that boost engagement are mainly being listened to, feeling part of something, so being involved, and the co-creation concept, so leaving a mark, making something, making your own part and seeing it. In that sense, feelings, emotion, are energy, are sense of being part of something. So energy, I would say a boost of energy as a summary for one word. On the other side, what make feel disengaged is not being listened to, not being part is the reverse mainly. When you are imposed something, when you are doing things that you do not necessarily have decided, or someone has explained you what's the meaning, why you are doing something. When things are, you have to switch off your brain and do something very, useless,
Mechanical,
or with
yeah.
not adding, mechanical, yeah, exactly. And in this sense, you lose energy, and you do not do the extra mile, whereas when you are engaged, you even do more than is expected normally.
Yeah, thank you. Anything to add, the other groups?
I would say more or less the same things in our group, so I will not repeat those. I might add other factors like bureaucracy as a disengagement factor, this chain of decisions, one after the other, and never come to a result. Technologic issues can be very, very off-putting, and so people can get fed up. And the reaction in our group was more or less the same, just leave the place, metaphorically or really going out of the room, but switch off. That's what happens when someone is disengaged.
Yeah, you don't give your best to the company. You don't feel you're contributing to something that you care.
Yeah, some people don't give anything at all. They just leave. So from 0 to little more than 0. That was it. I don't know if someone else would like to add something else.
Anything else?
If I can add something, so Stefano speaking, if I can add something more, is that having worked in multinationals that are full of mission statements and value declarations, and seeing that whatever is written in the declaration on the statement is never verifiable in the working place. So it is nice to have written on the wall, is our mission, our values, and then you don't see anything in the management style and in the organizational model or the and it is not just about trust. It's about I mean, the Americans say walk the talk. So
yes, the congruence.
Of course, any HR department, especially big corporates, has to release the ethical conduct, mission statement, value, and then in the end, you ask yourself and you look around and you ask yourself, well, what do I find of all this thing in my practice every day with my people, and how this organization put me in the position to make those values alive. And this is a big disengagement factor, I think, for many managers.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else?
Many of what was said, so I'll not repeat, but the only thing that has not been mentioned is when you can see the results concretely of your work, or when you can't see, so engaging and disengaging.
So if you don't know how you are contributing, so you don't know what is your part in the larger scheme of things, is this that you mean?
Or if there is so much bureaucracy, as someone already said, and whatever, and you just don't move, you don't see that your work is producing results at all.
Yeah.
Then,
yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Let me share again, because I, of course, put together all the results that Gallup put together. So the top 10 reasons for disengagement, and the majority of those elements, you mention it. There are other elements like excessive workload, lack of collaboration. Pay, of course, it can be an element, although we know that it's not really the main factor. One of the interesting things to notice is that the manager or the team leaders alone accounts for 70% of the variance in team engagement. This is from Gallup again. Organizations spend something like more than $700 million each year to generate employee engagement, and billions of dollars are funneled into engagement initiatives, and but the engagement rates really stagnate. So I'll give you my point of view, our point of view on the why those programs fail, and some of those reasons probably will sound new to you. So first of all, something that we call externalization. So let me explain. The very presence of subordination generates, and this, we talked about it last webinar again. So the presence of subordination generates specific and predictable, albeit unconscious, dynamics. So when employees are in a hierarchical organization, they tend to be passive and to hold the bosses and the management accountable for their problems. And moreover, the current employee engagement strategies tend to do very little to engender a sense of employee ownership in the engagement process. So in fact, employee engagement assessment, for example, often do exactly the opposite, because they prompt employees to externalize the need to fix engagement into the management's shoulders. So the workforce tends to collectively think, well, I hope the management figures this out this year. So they expect the management to fix their engagement problem. They've got a lot of work to do to get me engaged. So I'm a passive recipient of initiatives that they need to do. So they are responsible for my engagement. So generally, we communicate to our workforce that someone else is accountable for their learning, growth, and development. And so I would say that these questions, these kind of assessments, in a way, they contribute to a culture of victimization and externalization in many organizations. Another element for the fail of engagement programs is ignoring the root causes. So generally, the engagement assessments are designed for measuring an outcome, so the overall engagement rates, but they do not attempt to address many of the deeper challenges underpinning employee satisfaction. So there are systemic cultural challenges that get in the way of people's ability to perform their job at their very best. So most employees want to be successful, but company policies, or for example, ineffective leaders, they get in the way. For example, a policy that requires an employee to obtain 3 signatures before using the company credit card. I mean, it would undermine trust and any sense of empowerment within the workplace. Or leaders' behaviors are typical in this. For example, if you have a leader who insists on excessive, arduous testing of new marketing campaigns, and this delay every initiative and foster a culture of we are late on everything. These are all elements that contribute to disengagement and are completely ignored by those kind of assessment. And another piece that for us has a role in the failing of this program is what we call the action planning. So when an organization is disheartened by low level of employee engagement, pressure kicks senior leaders into action planning mode. So they begin assembling lists of 80 plus ways to improve engagement levels. And this is like a shotgun approach, and it's very decentralized and unfocused. And very often it generates skepticism among employees and leaving management underappreciated for their efforts. It's like the employees say, okay, this is the effect of another engagement assessment. Okay, we will do this 1,000 initiatives. Okay, it will fade away anyway. So those elements that I talked about, do they resonate with you? Do they make sense to you?
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay. So I would like to spend some time to talk about and share with you what make AEquacy an environment where engagement is embedded, is there by default. AEquacy is and the practices of AEquacy are designed to generate engagement systemically. So let me go through all the elements that I believe contribute to engagement in this kind of organization. And maybe think about, even if you don't plan to implement AEquacy, think about what are the elements in this list that could in a way be adapted or in a way implemented without implementing everything. So the first element I would say is the purpose. You know that the purpose of an organization is the answer to the question, why is this work that we do important? Employees should find the purpose inspirational and motivational. And in a way, it relates the work we do with the contribution that the organization do to society through work. So the first element to create engagement that AEquacy suggests is an identification of a true, deep, motivating, high-level purpose, other than making money, of course, that can give a sense of meaning to the employees and also clarify what is the contribution that each person is offering to the world through their work. And as Stefano mentioned before, the purpose should not be a nice statement that we put on the internet. It should be really the deep reason why the company exists. And any AEquacy organization must have a high-level purpose in place. Authority is another element. In AEquacy, employees can make decisions on the work that they do. Authority is distributed, and people have all the information to make the necessary decisions to advance their role. Probably I mentioned before in the previous webinar that we use dynamic roles, and in each dynamic role, there is one piece that defines the domain of the role, which is the perimeter within which the person can make any decision, provided, of course, that the decision does not damage the organization, infringe the purpose or values or policies, or limits another role. So other than these three elements, each role can have a large authority to make decisions. Also, the decision-making process that we use, and we'll touch again later on, leaves the proposer the ultimate decision on their proposal, and of course, provided that there are no valid objections. So employees have true authority. We talk about the contribution and not knowing how I contribute to the results of the organization can make me disengaged. But in in AEquacy, we use OKR, and well, even if you don't implement AEquacy, I really suggest every organization to use OKR, objectives and key results, because they are set in a way that, first of all, aligns the whole organization, because any team creates their own objectives and key results in a way that, you know, they need to contribute to the higher to the organizational level objectives, and each single individual shall establish some OKR, objectives and key results, that are aligned and contribute to the team objectives. So there is this continual alignment, and because the OKRs are accessible, transparent to anyone, everybody knows exactly how they are contributing to the well-being of the organization. Participations also is very important in our view to engage people, because in the consent decision making, the protocol for the meetings allow and requires all participants to voice their ideas and also their concerns, so that the proposer can take different perspectives into account when taking the decision, and introverts find the space to make their voice heard. So the idea of being listened to, on top of being listened to during the collaboration, but during meetings, those protocols allow for bigger participation. Also, the feeling of lack of growth is one of the main elements that brings disengagement. And in AEquacy, for example, the performance management system do not rely on the once or twice a year feedback from one constituency only, so generally the manager, but encourages everyone to share continuous loops of feedback among peers, like a sort of TripAdvisor. And again, feedback is given as a gift to enhance people effectiveness, and again, is public to everyone to see. So the opportunity for development is constant. The way that dynamic roles are designed in AEquacy means that each person can be assigned to different roles, several roles. And they can be based on the person's skills, so roles because you are good in that particular competence, but also on the person's interest. So it's up to the employee to own their career development and volunteer for roles that expand their skills and broaden the scope of their contribution. And also having different roles may mean that the person that take part in different teams, and so there is an opportunity for collaboration and cross-pollination that expands. In addition, in each team, there are roles that have to do with team management, like the role of the host or the role of the coach. And those roles rotate so that everyone have the opportunity to play let's say, a coordination role. So we believe that dynamic roles really greatly support the emergence of people potential. Well, not knowing, not having clarity is one of the main problems. In AEquacy, there is no let's say, cascading of information, where moving down the corporate management ladder, level by level, the information loses bits and pieces, gets fragmented and possibly manipulated. So all data and information are accessible to everyone, giving people visibility of what happens at company, team, and individual level. And team members are all responsible for making the governance decisions that rule how work is done, which roles the team need, which guidelines are to follow, how the team members are remunerated, and the like. So all governance decisions are transparent. Well, talking about collaboration, the AEquacy design resembles a fractal, the geometrical form in nature where each part contains the whole, and they appear the same at different scale. So natural fractals, for example, are the snow crystals, the broccoli, trees, the DNA. So the AEquacy design is similar to and also represents the spontaneous interactions between employees and teams, and it encourages collaboration. Also, in each team, there are specific roles that support coordination and keep the organization together. So just to give an example, the role of the coach, the main duty of the coach is to facilitate the meetings of the team. The host duty is to sort out all the logistics so that everything goes smooth. And then there are also 3 roles that we call connectors. So just to give you an example, the rep link is a delegate of a specific team that attends the meeting of another connected teams that can discuss topics or decisions that may impact her team of origin. So there are all these connectors that participate in different teams and help coordinating and helping the coordination and collaboration in the organization. And last but not least, equality. Equality is one of the main principles of AEquacy. We believe that we need to avoid any form of subordination if we want to create an environment where people can self-organize, self-direct themselves, and unleash their full potential. And through partnership, full accountability can only happen when any form of subordination is abandoned and members of the organization are trusted to be capable of self-direction, not just self-management. So let me stop here and ask you, what resonates with you of what you've heard so far?
May I ask questions concerning
Sure.
when we talk about, of course, these sort of systems implies that you need people to take responsibility.
Yeah.
And this means that somehow you not only have to have equality, and when you give somebody the authorization, or you make to make an investment or to take a decision, you need also to create a culture in which making mistakes is allowed. I mean,
No, of course.
if you don't want to go to the extreme of Reed Hastings and Netflix, which says that we need to celebrate the big failures, but which is, I find it pretty extreme. But that is a point. So how do you manage? Because it's nice to have full responsibility, but I've been directing teams and companies in which when people were saying nobody listened to us, and when you give them the power, they say, oh my God, what should I do now? It's my responsibility. So this is one of the things. There are even some people who do not want the responsibility.
Yeah.
And this is something that is probably the trigger point in this story, is how much, which is the degree of responsibility that people can sustain in your organization.
Yeah. Well, you make a very excellent point that prompt me to many different directions. So let me start by saying that when we interview the people who moved from hierarchy to AEquacy, and we ask them what was the biggest challenge for you, they almost all say accountability. They say, I was really scared to have all these responsibilities, but then when I really understood, the potential and the possibility that I had, it was fantastic. And of course, in our experience, there is probably 10% of people in the organization who don't want responsibility. And my question is, in this kind of unstable, complex environment, fast-pacing environment, do we need people who do not take responsibility? So this is a bigger challenge for the organizations that are now hierarchical. But having said that, on the one side, you can create dynamic roles that have a domain, so this perimeter where they can make any decision that is smaller or bigger. So depending on the function and the ability and the skills of the person, they can decide, well, I want this space and not a bigger space to make decisions because I'm not ready yet. So there is some, in a way, some modularity in it. Another piece is that the whole idea of AEquacy and the way we teach the practices of AEquacy is iterative. Is it correct? Iterative? I mean, we follow the principle is it's okay, it's safe enough to try, unless we have proof that it's completely damaging for the organization. So with this is safe enough to try, we are allowed to make risks, and there is also space to go back or to change direction if the decision doesn't seem to be successful. So people know that they can try and see if it works, and otherwise it's a cycle of iteration. So continuous feedback on what's going on and the impact on the organization. So this could help taking risks, small risks or bigger risks, depending on the attitude, but with the view of we want to do the best, and we make sure that the decision don't damage the organization or another role. I don't know if it helps.
Yeah. My question was also whether you need to prepare before going through AEquacy or trying to apply it, is whether you need to prepare.
Well, yeah, in our experience, I would say that it's easier and quicker to implement AEquacy in a new formed organization, or in an organization that doesn't have a long history of a strong culture, especially a strong hierarchical culture. So for example, in the public administration, I would suggest to do a preparation and to AEquacy, because it's very, very far from, the principles of the organizational functionings are so different that it could be a shock for the employees. And on the other, another reflection that I made recently, in the past, having done a lot of change management programs and cultural transformation programs for clients in Italy and internationally, I was convinced that to culture to change, we really needed to work with groups of people in the organizations with, for the personal deep transformation. And once we got to a a certain point where enough people went through those programs, then the culture would change. And now I kind of changed my point of view, because I see that the container creates the culture. So if you change the container, if you change the structure and the policies and the processes, in a way that the transformation is there already. So it's easier when you change the let's say the rules of how we play together. Sorry for the long answer.
Thank you very much.
Giovanna, and if I may ask a question, I'm curious if you can speak to supporting engagement in remote environments. As I know, like our organization has always been remote, and during the pandemic, most organizations have moved to remote environments. And also during times of crisis, like all of our team is very adherent to, you know, our mission, and we don't really have any issues with people engaging in their work. But we find that there's, I don't know, engagement is really one of our priorities this year, and it's not being engaged in the accomplishment of the work, but really like engagement with each other, with the organization. How can we support people, support our remote team, you know, in the midst of remote trauma and crisis. You know, and it's not people, you know, aren't necessarily people have roles that they take and volunteer for a number of things. So those aren't issues for us, but we still feel kind of a disconnect. I'm not sure if that resonates.
Well, are you talking about the lack of personal connection, or is there something different?
Maybe so. I mean, I think there's definitely a fatigue. Like, because people, I think, especially working remotely, there's a need to continue doing the work without necessarily providing yourself that space. So we're engaged in like we check all of the boxes, if you will, for employee engagement work-wise, but there seems to be a gap in connection. Maybe that is the word.
Yeah. Well, my sense it was the connection, because, well, in my company we are in smart working since the beginning, since 2001. So we never shared the same office in 20 years. And I know that when you have a dispersed team, there are different factors that plays in feeling connected. One is the occasions to be together without a specific task. And now there are for example, a lot of technology that allows you to have fun while together. So there are a lot of tools that allow you to collaborate and work together almost if you are in the same space. I just yesterday I tried a technology app that is very interesting. So you create an hologram of you, and then you place some virtual reality glasses, and it seems like you have your colleague just, you know, on your side, and you work with your colleague in moving things and on a screen. So there are elements that allow us to work better together. The other piece is that we shall not, because we are in smart working, think that we do the same thing that we did when we were at the office, but at home, because it's completely wrong. Because we need different tools, we need a different relationship with our well, managers, if we are in a hierarchical system, or colleagues, and different tools, collaboration tools. So Jen, maybe we can continue this conversation if you want to deepen the issue, the conversation. I'm aware that, you know, we are 5 minutes to the end of the webinar. Would like to hear from somebody else before we move to the end. What resonates with you of what I said? Anything that you think can be adopted in your organization to boost engagement, even if you don't implement AEquacy altogether?
Just one thing that comes to my mind every time I talk about these subjects is how you get do you get it up to scale? You sort of addressed it already by saying, well, it's easier in younger organizations, in startups where the culture, as a consequence, the culture is not there, is not already. But these are the ones that, if you want, from my point of view, needs it least because they are more adaptable by definition. Instead, when the culture is already there, the hierarchy causes silo thinking, and the processes are absolutely compliance oriented. I really have a problem in even explaining what psychological safety is, which is sort of the secret sauce to make everything happen. And so we end up with Stefano's picture where you come up with a purpose and it hangs on the wall, and you hope that then everyone walks the talk. So my question really is, how do you put this at scale? If you are not Boardsorg, which was born like that, or your company, which was born like that. But if you think of any traditional company that has been on the market for years, where do you start from? What is the hook?
Well, in let's say groups of organizations, I'm thinking, for example, banking institutions. They generally have a group of companies, the big old bank, and then there are smaller companies which are at the forefront of innovation. So I'm thinking like Fabric for Banca Sella, just to give an example. In these cases, you can start with implementing the whole structure of AEquacy and practices of AEquacy in a small company inside the organization, and see, use it as a laboratory and see how it goes, and creating a success story, and see if then it can be expanded in other areas. Very similarly, you can do a pilot. So for example, in Nespresso, we implemented AEquacy only in one team. So we didn't touch the hierarchy around this team, so outside this team, but we implemented a number of practices only in the team, in the HR team. Interestingly, the leadership team saw some of the practices of the HR team and asked to be trained to use some of those practices because they found it interesting. So it's, in a way, you create desire for it. Having said that, generally, because again, we have been engaged in change management initiatives for many years, one of the things that we learn from our experience is that when the decision is downloaded from above, it doesn't work. So we start by engaging all the employees in a number of activities. It can be a survey to understand the readiness of the organization, or it can be some workshop to make them taste what it looks like, what it feels like to be in a different environment, work in a different environment. So we first bring people on board, and then we make the change, because in some organization, probably the work of shifting from hierarchy to AEquacy would be too painful, too long and too painful. So probably maybe you need some preparation, an initiative on cultural transformation, maybe first, creating more trust and accountability, and then moving to AEquacy. But again, if you want to deepen the conversation, we can have another conversation later.
Thank you.
Thank you. So let me see what else do we have. I think we have finished, but just to remind you, if you are interested in downloading the organization 2020 research result that we did a few months ago, you are invited to download it for free on the website. You know that there are those webinars every month. We touch on one different subject related to organizational management. And so you are all invited to join all the other webinars. And if you like, on May 18, July 7th, and October the 12th, we organize the AEquacy Taster. It's a workshop of a few hours. It's all in virtual mode and via Zoom. And it's very interactive and very exciting. And you have the possibility to experience what is the difference of working in a hierarchical environment and a AEquacy environment. So if you're curious about what it looks like, I invite you to sign up for the AEquacy Taster. And for those who are interested in becoming facilitators of AEquacy practices, the new training, the AEquacy Facilitation Certification Program will start in July 2021. So this is it. We are 2 or 3 minutes out of the over the hour, and let me thank everyone for being part of the webinar and for sharing and for exploring with us. So, and I hope to see you at the next webinar next month.